Honorable Minister for Information, Telecommunications and Land Reforms, Shri Chandrasekhar, my good friend for many, many years and colleague, the Member Finance in the Telecom Commission, Shri Manish Sinha, Mr. T.K. Arun, Consulting Editor of ETTelecom. When we last met, we were inhabiting more rarefied world of finance and economics, but now I think technology is the new finance and economics, and we now inhabit that world. Distinguished speakers on stage, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the odd one out on the stage. Most of the others are directly connected with the telecom industry. But I think the key element and the message for this morning is the increasing convergence of technology and the overlay of digital technology in practically everything that happens. And the way that all of this is coming together to actually drive and advance what needs to happen in India's overall economic advancement. Recently, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology had a study done as to what is the proportion of the digital economy in the overall GDP of India. ICRIER, Indian Center for International Economic Relations, did this study for us, and they came out with an interesting finding that about 10 years ago, the share of the digital economy in India's economy was about 7%, and today it's closer to 13%, and likely to go up to 20% by the turn of this decade. And that is the speed with which the digital economy is impacting the rest of the economy just in terms of its size. And in their estimation, they don't count the impact that the digital economy is having on productivity in other sectors. They're only counting where the digital economy is directly involved in manufacture and production of electronics, telecom equipment, and so on, in those sectors which are purely e-commerce, social media, and so on. So these are the limited areas which have been covered. Even that is tending to reach almost 20%. And the true revolution, at least in India's case, the true revolution that needs to take place and the true ability of India's economy to grow and to reach the goal that the Prime Minister has set for all of us, which is that we need to be a developed nation by 2047, this is truly possible only if we leverage the power of technology, and digital technology in particular. And this needs to happen in the productive sectors of the economy. And it can happen in the productive sectors of the economy only if there is this convergence. So when the 5G and later on the 6G networks are rolled out, that aids IoT, and on top of that rides artificial intelligence. Today, the kind of artificial intelligence that we are seeing operate in most parts of the economy is generative AI, the large language models. Everyone talks about it. Most people are concerned about it. But for an economy like India, I mean, the reason why we don't see it as much of a threat as possibly in the Western world is because we don't have as many white-collar jobs at stake. We don't have as many office jobs at stake. Today's generative AI mostly replaces that kind of work. So someone like me is easily replaceable by AI in its present form, or the many people who assist me could be replaceable, and my productivity may go up. But the application of artificial technology into the real segments of the economy, whether you look at manufacture or whether you look at agriculture, is really possible when there's an interplay between sensors, IoT devices, communicating along 5G and 6G networks, going into a central server, collecting the data and putting it all together so that it can work. There will, in due course, be large quantitative models. There will be a number of other models which will analyze data of that kind, large visual data related models which will analyze data of that kind to produce the kind of results that you need to increase productivity in the real sectors of the economy. And that is the connection, and that is the way in which all these technologies converge. MeitY has always been very happy as the Electronics and Information Technology Ministry to support research in all of these areas. We have supported extensively the research in 5G and 6G standards, for instance, in IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, and IIT Kanpur, and they have worked together to actually put together the way the standards have been worked out. We've also extended support in other areas of telecommunication and communication-based connectivity. Our agency Samir, which deals with microwave electronics fundamentally, but also does extensive work in other forms of communication, has demonstrated a 6G capability already in the last India Mobile Congress. So we have a research background in a lot of the electronics area, and we also support both the development of the chips. Ultimately, when we are talking about an India-based mobile phone being developed, the chip for the mobile phone is something which is going to be critical. And that is, again, work that we are jointly doing with the Department of Telecom, and that is something we are supporting under the India Semiconductor Mission and the Design-Linked Incentive Scheme. And likewise, eventually when AI becomes something which is critical for this, AI applications under the India Semiconductor Mission are also getting supported. The AI applications, many of which will use a lot of telecom-related infrastructure and will bring together the data, and that is the seamless way in all of this will come together. And last and most important, in a situation like India's, in a context where we don't live in a particularly friendly neighborhood, and the vulnerabilities are great in terms of what can happen with so much data floating around, cybersecurity becomes a very key element. And as with the latest, finally we have clarity on how exactly cybersecurity related issues need to be addressed at the national level, with an overarching role for the National Security Council Secretariat, which is expected to coordinate all the issues there, and the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology being responsible for the technology-related cybersecurity measures of all our places where we store data, the internet networks, and all of those, endpoint security, all of those elements come within the ambit of MeitY. Then the network-related security elements come within the ambit of telecom, and the cybercrime-related issues come within the ambit of MHA. This kind of clarity, which was needed for quite some time, has finally emerged, and which means that our work on cybersecurity, which has to go hand in hand with all which is going on with the way a lot of data is getting collected and is about to get used for various applications for advancing productivity, is not vulnerable, is not subject to the kind of threats we would otherwise see, is very key and critical. And there again, I think all the key players in this room are equally, not so much responsible, but equally have a responsibility to ensure that this is something that we deliver to our citizens safely. And ultimately, it's not just about individual cybersecurity or a cybercrime, but all of us also deserve and also we desire data privacy, and that is something through the DPTP Act we assure. And that again is an area where I think there's a lot of collaboration which is possible between the two ministries and in the way that we work together. So let me thank the ETTelecom and the organizers of this event for having ensured this convergence, and so that we could actually speak about it in a way that on a public platform to just make the audience and the broader world understand the way in which various ministries of government are coming together to make sure that issues which are of national importance, issues which are critical to take the nation forward in the days to come, are being addressed in a coordinated, coherent, and very concurrent manner. Thank you once again for the invitation, and thank you for the very patient listening.